Gracious God, may the words you have given me to speak find a home in each of our hearts. Please be seated. And Jesus said to them, "Are you able to drink the cup that I drink?" Years ago, our Danish neighbor invited Josephine and me to their home for dinner. On arriving at their home, we realized this was a special occasion. All the guests, about 10 other couples, were Danish. It was an elegant event. Well, now, the Danes are no strangers to alcohol. Their glasses were raised frequently throughout the dinner. And I learned that if you raise your glass and say "Skål," you must lock your eyes with your drinking partner. Sneaking a drink out of your glass while no one's looking, without maintaining eye contact with your neighbor, is a gross breach of etiquette. Truly, I say unto you, getting through that evening was exhausting. Wikipedia reveals that the ancient German custom of eye contact is an expression of trust. It prevents your drinking partner from raising his sword or pouring a little poison into your glass. For me, I prefer to raise my glass to l'chaim, to life. That's the cup that Jesus offers us in the cup we raise. To life. In accepting that cup, we accept the sorrows and the pain that lie ahead on the journey of our life to the true life. This morning, the disciples and Jesus turn on the final leg of their journey to Jerusalem. Stepping ahead, Jesus confidently leads the way. The disciples follow, but a little timid, fearful of what awaits them. Moments before we encountered them in the gospel this morning, for the third time, Jesus discloses what's going to happen to them, what lies ahead on their path. He reminds them that in Jerusalem, he will be delivered under torture and death by the priests, the scribes, and the Gentiles, and after 3 days, rise again. At that moment, it seems to me that the battery in James and John's hearing aid fails them. Out of fear, disbelief, or rejection, they simply cannot hear what Jesus tells them. Unable to square their vision of a conquering Messiah with the tragedy that lies ahead, they assume they're going to coronation. Out of a sense of self-importance, they petition to share equally in their mistaken vision of glory. Their request stirs up feelings of jealousy amongst the others as they hear the two sons of Zebedee lobbying for advanced position at their own expense. Having followed Jesus from the beginning, all 12 assume they deserve cabinet positions in the administration ahead. From our privileged position as readers of Mark's Gospel, it's so tempting to criticize the disciples. But they're only human, yielding to human impulses, unable to see beyond our human limitations. They've been witness to signs and wonders that Jesus performed all along the way, but fear and disbelief blind them to the role, the model of true servanthood that has walked before them in the person of Jesus. Despite their assurance of loyalty, all will betray Jesus in the days ahead. James and John fall asleep in Gethsemane. In doing so, they deny the comfort to Jesus during his agony in the garden. Afraid for their lives, the disciples all deny or abandon him. None are present on Calvary. An outsider, a stranger, a Gentile is commanded to shoulder the burden of his cross. Now Jesus says to them, "Are you able to drink the cup that I drink?" How easy for them to reply, "Yes, we can," as they know not what they ask. Misled by their vision of glory, they unknowingly ask to share in his destiny. The positions they seek on Jesus' right and left hand have been reserved already for two criminals who share the shameful death of crucifixion. The disciples cannot know the price that they must pay. Only Jesus understands the bitterness that lies in that cup. The cup that Jesus will drink overflows with the sins, the suffering, the pain of all humanity. No wonder then Jesus says, "My soul is sorrowful to the point of death," in the Gospel of Matthew. His agony is so intense that his sweat falls to the ground like great drops of blood in the Gospel of Luke. Alone in Gethsemane, abandoned by his disciples who were sleeping, he cries out, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass away." In his book, "Can You Drink the Cup?" theologian and spiritual author Henry Noah reminds us that the cup Jesus will drink is neither a symbol of victory nor a symbol of death. It is a symbol of life. A symbol that's filled all the sorrows and joys that the world holds in our life ahead. The cup we receive at the rail is God's blessing as we travel our troubled way to salvation. Jesus knows that the hard road the disciples, he knows the hard road that the disciples will travel in the days ahead. Yet longingly, he accepts their foolishness and their human weakness. Generously, he comforts them. "Yes, the cup I drink, you will also." They too will walk a path of sorrows and a path to true discipleship. That path ends in torture and martyrdom for all but one. The cost of discipleship is high. The German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer, himself martyred by the Third Reich, tells us discipleship is costly because it costs a person their life. It is grace because it's the road to the only true life. Jesus tells us that the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. We are the many. The joy of our redemption has come at the cost, at the price of Christ's death and redemption, resurrection. We are surrounded in life by so many who accept the price of true discipleship. Consider the 4 young chaplains aboard the World War II Army troop ship Dorchester. At 1 o'clock in the morning, just south of Greenland, the ship is mortally wounded by a German torpedo. She will sink in 20 minutes. There are not enough life jackets to go around. In that scene of confusion and terror and darkness, each chaplain unbuckles his life vest and puts it on another passenger. The 4 are last seen praying, guiding, and comforting terrified passengers. Many of the 900 passengers will perish, and yet 250 lives are saved, clawed back from death by the nearby Coast Guard cutters. Were those 4 chaplains afraid? It's not for us to know. What we do know is that those 4 accepted the cup of life that was offered to them. Out of the bitterness of that cup was the gift of joy that was received out of their sacrifice. And now, Jesus asks us, are you able to drink the cup that I drink? This is the question that will have such a different meaning every day of our lives. We're surrounded by examples of so many who accept Jesus' invitation. There are the first responders who run toward danger, often at the cost of their own lives, to save others. We remember Houston Police Sergeant Steve Perez, who drowned in Hurricane Harvey's floodwaters in his headlong rush to save others. I have a job to do, he said when his wife asked him to stay behind. Dramatic examples, of course. Less dramatic are the thousands of healthcare workers who quietly accept that cup and run to danger every day to protect us from the invisible death that surrounds us. The cup of life these past 19 months has been filled with bitterness. Loved ones everywhere have been isolated from family, often to die alone. As the danger now subsides, many are now able to celebrate memorial services for those taken from us during COVID. Last month, I attended a memorial for a friend, one of the very first to die in Connecticut from COVID. I was moved by the joy that flowed out of his son's words as he struggled to hold back and choke his tears to express his love of their life together. How wise are these words along the Noah? The cup of life is the cup of joy as much as it is the cup of sorrow. It is the cup in which sorrows and joys, sadness and gladness, mourning and dancing are never separated. If joys could not be where sorrows are, the cup of life would never be drinkable. That is why we have to hold the cup in our hands and look carefully to see the joys hidden in our sorrows.